There are a number of different rhythm games on the market, and standing out in this field is not easy. Developer Brace Yourself Games, though, have certainly taken a good stab at doing this, innovating with their previous hit, Crypt of the NecroDancer. The game had a unique take by blending a dungeon crawler with more conventional rhythm game shenanigans, and it succeeded in gaining a cult following, with many praising the title for its great soundtrack, enticing story, and solid gameplay mechanics. This time around, the developers are back with their follow-up hit Rift of the NecroDancer. Although the game has stripped back the dungeon crawling elements, it more than makes up for that with great music and an addictive, Moorish gameplay loop. Given the precision you need for this game, there's a very welcome audio/visual setup to fine-tune your reflexes when you first load up the game. While it doesn't seem to make too much difference to begin with, during some of the more frantic tracks and songs, it absolutely makes all the difference, and you'll be grateful for this level of fidelity. When you first load up the game, there are several different routes to go down. A standard quick play sees a basic tutorial along with the different tracks to play individually, although a good chunk will be locked behind the story mode, where you'll likely spend the bulk of your time here. Here, we're back in control of Cadence, the protagonist from Crypt of the NecroDancer, who finds herself thrown into a strange new world as monsters surge through the rift. With no other choice, Cadence takes to the rhythm arena, or, well, controller pad or keyboard, I guess, to thwart the forces of evil before it's too late. Along the way, Cadence fights off numerous bosses, with each part of the story broken up into acts featuring different characters. The rhythm gameplay predominantly slots into 3 different styles, and each come with their own quips and playstyles. Rhythm Rifts is where the bulk of the gameplay takes place, and is laid out like the standard Guitar Hero/rhythm game format, with a rectangular bar serving as a timeline, with 3 buttons, left, up and right, respectively, needing to be pressed in time with monsters as they reach the end of the line. These hits range from fair up to perfect, gaining different amount of points depending on how accurate you are. While this seems basic in theory, NecroDancer throws a ton of spanners in the works in the form of the different monsters. You see, each monster has a unique attack pattern, so in a way, NecroDancer is very much a game of combat strategy and memory as much as it is sticking to the rhythm of each track. Some slime monsters require multiple hits to take out, while bats zoom around diagonally on the grid. Furthermore, some enemies sport shields that will need to be hit several times in quick succession, while there are also flying drones that will zoom down the timeline super fast, requiring lightning-quick precision. Every beat of the song will bring the monsters closer to you across these 3 lanes, and the game definitely throws everything in the kitchen sink at you, especially during the later levels. To mix things up, there are also monsters that attack off-beat. Thankfully, there are difficulty levels here that are divided into easy all the way up to insanity, so you can tweak your experience along the way to a style that suits you and the challenges without overwhelming. Across each level you get 10 hits before it's a game over, but the songs do throw lifelines in the form of different food items which can replenish your HP. Furthermore, there's also the ability to fill up your vibe power meter, which allows invincibility for a short period of time, which is incredibly useful during some of the more frantic parts of the song or if you lose your rhythm. This is especially useful because on top of all of this are environmental hazards too, ranging from flame pits that speed up monsters to portals that teleport monsters across to different parts of the map. Rift of the NecroDancer is unique in this sphere because it's very difficult to pick up where you left off if you lose your flow. It's not impossible, of course, but given the enemies move down thick and fast and you need to be ahead of the curve to come out in one piece, it can sometimes be super brutal to come away with the victory. It's also deceptive in that at first glance, this looks like an easy game, but this is a tough, brutal rhythm game that will absolutely test you to the limits. However, this all adds to the allure of the game. Throughout the story, and between cutscenes fleshing out the story, are 2 different types of mini-games. The first are standard rhythm game shenanigans, ranging from doing yoga poses to snapping pictures and even choreographing a dance while wearing an adorable costume on stage. The best comparison I can give here is that they're basically like the mini-games seen in Mario Party. These work to break everything up, because the real coup de grace comes from the boss fights. Across the story, there are a number of boss fights that utilize your skills, requiring you to time your hits and dodge in equal measure. These occur on a standard screen while the boss is doing attacks, but at times it can be a little confusing to know the exact timing. However, after the first few bosses you should have the general idea of when to hit the buttons and come away with the victory. No rhythm game would be complete without a kick-ass soundtrack, and thankfully, Rift of the NecroDancer is outstanding in this field. The song compositions cover a wide variety of genres and generally work well within the flow of the game. There's a lot to choose from here across the story, but on top of that, the game also encourages the community to come together and craft their own tracks. In fact, via the Steam Workshop, there are lots of tracks for you to import as custom songs to play, with fan-made tracks for all sorts of different games and theme songs. Even this early, there's a lot of exciting tracks to choose from, and I'd imagine the community is going to absolutely go to town on this one. Aesthetically, the game also has a unique color palette, with big, bold colors that help everything pop on screen. The animations for the monsters and for Cadence and company during the cutscenes all feed into that cutesy art style, and in a way, it shares some similarities with Persona for the general flow and the way this marries so harmoniously alongside the music. Ultimately, Rift of the NecroDancer is a great rhythm game. It's a title that takes the best this genre has to offer and spins that into a unique, compelling remix that you can't help but bop your head to. Deceptively easy, this is an absolute must-play and a blast from start to finish.